Hey y'all. Okay. So I thought it was important to, I guess you could say, stand for something and not fall for anything. So part of the reason I was able to get a good understanding of what's going on in the special education sector is I work with children, I work with adults, and when I work with adults, I was a clinician. So when I got to that point, I thought something was going on. When I got to that point in my career, it was different. I'm not gonna say it was very high stressful environment, and not only that, it taught me a lot about nonprofit organizations. A lot of nonprofit organizations will take on certain programs that they know they cannot fulfill the mission. So that'll be for another time. But right now, what I'm going to say is when I went into the school system and I noticed a lot of kids their needs weren't able to be met. When they spent so much money from the money that they were making, being able to put mostly black kids on the IEP, and it started to get really, really concerning when I started to see smaller and smaller kids on IEPs. And it was so much so that I would see like kids in a Head Start program, and that's not even public school yet. That Head Start is a whole total different program. It gets them ready for school. So I was just like, they're on an IEP getting ready for school. So that was the new lick. And a lot of that kind of happened. It all kind of started in like 2011. It was a paper that I wrote a while ago. I'm gonna have to go back and dig it up. But anyway, it was a correlation to that. I was able to correlate the data and all that, and I was like, oh heck no. So in so many words, that's when people started to really coin the phrase pipeline to prison because it's a real thing. So anyway, I worked with kids with autism and more on various ends of the spectrum in an after school program. And then I went into the clinical setting with the adults. So basically, it gave me the observation or the opportunity to see them here and where they were trying to send them. So as time went on and I worked in a clinical setting with the adults, basically the DSM-5 had changed. And so with the stipulations on the DSM-5, they started throwing all the categories together. Nothing was separated and put into, it was just it's a hot mess. So I was like, oh my God. And the sad part was it was a clinician, it was the head clinician basically said this program would fail. She said that in a staff meeting. I was like, she said it. I was like, oh my God. So for a couple years, I ended up spending more time at home with my daughter. Then I ended up going and said, okay, when she got into like maybe first grade, I went and said, okay, well, I'm sitting at home. Let me go become a paraprofessional. So I wanted to go do that in a sped setting. Honey, I worked 7 days. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They could have that job. Let me tell you something. Because of the level of, I'm sweating, of education that I already have, the degrees, the certifications, or whatever the case may be, it was not even worth the compromising any of it to continue to stay there. It was so bad that the teacher that they had in the classroom was a new teacher. She knew nothing. She didn't even have children. And generally, that's kind of how it goes a lot of times. And this was in the hood. They had just built up a whole new school, gave it a new name and a new program. I'm not going to say the name of it. The crazy thing is the kids were so out of control. And I was like, there was no learning going on because it was the behaviors. So what bothered me is what happens to the children that don't have the behavioral issues but do need the assistance. There's really no place for them. Like, If they're in a regular setting, the people don't want to slow down and help them. And then when they are in SPED, it's hard to help them because they have so many distractions in the classroom. And not only that, the SPED teachers are so boggled down with so much paperwork, they don't have time to teach. So that leaves the paraprofessional. Now, y'all don't even be knowing it. They have to do most of the work when it comes to teaching, assisting, spreading their attention throughout the classroom with a lot of kids. And then you have children that definitely need like one-to-one support that they're not able to get, even though they have an IEP that states that they do. To the point of you have kids eloping, okay? They don't even have, so this is another thing to consider. If you have a child, and this, in my case, I'm just going to talk about me. My child needed assistance, but I could never see myself signing on the dotted line for an IEP, and that's really the environment that you sign up to put your children in. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to offer you the IEP, and they're not going to offer you the 404 plan that they let their counterparts have for a while before they get to the IEP. The IEP is the bag. And I'm just being honest. And that's why I really don't fool with the public school sectors. I don't even have any friends that are educators anymore. I had friends that were in that sector, but the honest ones, they're not there anymore. The ones that actually did the work and knew what time it was, they're not there anymore. But then you have the mammy-tammies that want to pay their loans off that don't want to help the kids. Well, they want to help the kids, but they're not going to say anything about it. And again, that's the problem with people. People don't want to say, talk about what's really happening.